We don't have these.
Oh, sorry. I'll turn on just one second.
Good evening, everybody. If you could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, everybody had the opportunity to review the minutes from April 15th.
We reviewed them on Monday slightly, and I looked at them again last night, and they seem to be fine. I'd like to propose that we adopt the April 15th, 2026 minutes as submitted.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the minutes of April 15th, 2026. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Pete. Any discussion on motion? Anybody in the audience have any questions, comments, concerns about the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. All right. Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
There are none. I just want to point out that under other business, discussion of saldo procedures was intended only for the workshop, so it's not a change, but I just want to note that we're not discussing it tonight.
Okay. Sounds like a plan to me. All right, MPC timeline review.
So there are two projects that are at the top of the MPC timelines they're both on the agenda for the Board of Supervisors for the June 4th meeting. And should the Board of Supervisors not take action for one reason or the other, then they would be beyond their time. However, we would ask for an extension at the meeting.
Okay.
So no action is required by this board?
No.
Okay, very good. All right. First thing on the agenda, conditional use review, docket 2384, redevelopment of 7660 Imperial Way conditional use.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting conditional use approval following the regulations of 27118 of the Upper Macungie Township zoning ordinance to permit the construction of an auto service station with accessory convenience store. The property at 7660 Imperial Way is a 10-acre lot within the Iron Run subdivision and it has an existing 5-story building on the parcel. The 5-story building is to remain. The proposed development will be located within the northern parking lot of the property and will have frontage on Imperial Way. The development will include a 6,600 square foot convenience store with pickup window, fuel pumps, with 12 dispensing locations under one canopy, parking areas, and associated site improvements such as lighting, landscaping, signage, and stormwater management facilities. In total, the development will encompass approximately 2 acres of the site. There's also a second component to the conditional use. It is for a reduction of the number of off-street parking spaces required for the existing 94,000 square foot office building, which the Board of Supervisors may permit through this conditional use process.
Anything else?
Actually, I do want to just make note that at the workshop, we discussed certain conditions that the staff had raised. They're on the 3rd page of the community development report, and they relate to traffic, the median on Imperial Way, stacking at the pickup window, and a stop sign and stop bar. So I just want to point those out in case you want to take a look at those and consider them.
Okay.
Thank you, Chuck. In general, our comment letter just refers to some site plan comments that need to be adjusted. And delving into what Meredith just touched upon, majority of our concerns are in regards to entry and exit traffic and internal circulation. We do have concerns with the right-in only driveway off of Imperial Way and conflicting with traffic that's exiting the fly-through window or the drive-through window. So we would be liking to see some internal stop bars and stop signs and additional traffic measures. And as she also mentioned, we are concerned about potential vehicles leaving the site via the right-in only and trying to access Route 100 North from that westernmost driveway. That's why we are requesting consideration for the extension of that median, which would require coordination with the opposite hotel property, as it would impact one of their driveways.
Also had a couple other comments as well. That we do note that the vehicle fueling station is a hotspot land use by our ordinance, so they would have to deal with that as far as making sure their runoff is, we got clean water. So that's a challenge for them to come up with that land development. We also noted that they've asked for a reduction in parking. Currently, there is 374 parking spaces, which is underparked for the site. After they're done, they will have 265 parking spaces on the site for the office use. The problem is that they are trying to base it on an ITE parking generation requirement, which would mean that they'd need 2.84 per thousand spaces for 1,000 square feet. Right now, they're showing 2.82. So they actually, it's a difference of 2 parking spaces that they're dedicating to the convenience store use that they would have to dedicate toward the office use instead. I think, quite frankly, I think since they have more for the convenience store, I don't think it's an actual issue. And then as far as the parking generation rates, we've dealt with ITE and the parking generation rates, and we feel that the generation rates that they're showing adequately addresses what's currently being for office use, more so than what our zoning ordinance requires.
What's the occupancy percentage in the office building?
It varies.
You want to stand up and
Sure.
come up to the mic, sir?
John McRoberts from the Pidcock Company. It varies. I think right now they're probably 60 to 70%.
Okay.
We submitted a sketch plan last March. We were in front of the Planning Commission in April of 2025. We went through the parking calculations then. So we had looked at Google Earth photos going back as far as we can. At no point does it ever even approach the 267 spaces.
Yeah, I'd been in the building doing work years ago, and it was very sparse.
Right.
The amount of people. So that's why I'm just asking is, at this point, the 2 parking spaces to me is not an issue. So
I was going to say, we could add the 2 to get to that exact number. If it was
Would you come up to the mic and tell us who you are, sir?
Sure. Eric Schock, Fitzpatrick, Lenson, Buba. Yeah, we talked about this. So we can add the 2 if anybody thought it was really necessary. But like you said, I'm not even sure that there's a necessity to get to that, just that mathematical perfection. But if that was the issue, you'd find a space for 2 more.
Right. So the convenience store has 4 extra spaces, 4 beyond what the zoning requirement specifies. We've also got space within the site, within the office building, if we didn't want overlap between the convenience store and office.
well, that was the stuff we talked about last year.
Right. There's several spaces that, with a couple paint marks, we can stripe out 2 more spaces right in front of the office building with no physical construction. One way or another, before we get to the land development phase, we'll make Marvin and Ally and the zoning office happy with that we've got the 267
Okay.
spaces for the office that are
Thank you.
required.
Any other comments?
I just wanted to clarify something. The site plan provided shows a proposed property line, but the plans don't show anything about a property line.
So at this point, that was shown to demonstrate that you could theoretically have that separate lot, but I don't believe the manner in which that occupant will take that pad has been determined with finality. But if it were to be, we want to subdivide, I think, John, you were demonstrating, I'm going to do this so that we could.
Yeah, I think that's all from us as the
Yeah.
engineer.
Okay,
Okay.
it's all
Um,
yours.
Sure. So as was mentioned, we need the 2 conditional uses. In the zoning review letter we received, you saw the zoning officer walk through all of the specific criteria. We can get to those, but probably maybe the thing to do is to talk about a couple of the issues that were raised by the engineer, particularly the right-hand turn configuration. So John, you want to talk about the stop bars that you would put in and what you think you can do? Sure.
So as Meredith said, page 3 of her comment letter has 4 recommended conditions. just starting with the easiest one, number 4 first, that Eric brought up. The stop sign and stop bar at the exit of the pickup lane. Absolutely, we can provide stop signs and stop bars. That's something that we would have covered at land development, but we absolutely agreed to add those to the plan. Moving up to number 3, further evaluation of the stacking at the pickup window to confirm that the stacking shown on the plan is sufficient. We've got stacking space for 4 vehicles. The operator expects no more than 3 at a time. Typically, it would be 2 at a time. There's no ordering happening at this window, no exchange of money. You get a message in your app that your order is ready. You pull up and you pick up your order. Their typical pickup time is 90 seconds or less. So at no point would they expect to have more than four vehicles in the
I think
line.
most places that I stop, because I do a lot of lunch pickups, so most of them are about 4, and that's it.
Right.
I don't see anything more because a lot of the space containment on just trying to get the drive-throughs on the properties.
And it's
But-
for this particular configuration, which is not a traditional drive-through with an order point and then you're stuck in line. For this one, everyone believes this number is more than sufficient for this.
I
type of
kind of agree because I could take you several that I've gone to lately, and I look at that because what happens if they stack too much? People can't even place an order. So
Whereas this you wouldn't be ordering.
So one thing we have asked for is backup data from existing sites that are similar, just to prove that the 4-car stacking during a peak 15-minute period, also showing how quick the turnaround time is per vehicle at these types of units. So that's what we're requesting.
We'll present some of that information at the conditional use hearing, because when we did go through the first iteration with the zoning office to talk about what are you actually proposing here, a lot of the information we took from those things, but we didn't put it all
Okay.
out at this point, but we do have some backup that we'll be glad to provide. That's consistent with what we just said.
The extension of the median on Imperial Way, that's a difficult one because while it doesn't affect our proposed operation, it affects the hotel's operation. It would make it, the exit lane from the hotel could not exit and make a left onto Imperial Way to get to Windsor, to Tillman, southbound on Route 100. That's a significant detriment to the hotel. It's something that we're willing to approach the hotel and see if they would consider it, but obviously we can't compel them to agree to that, and they would have to sign off on that change. So it's something that we're willing to approach them and ask, but it's not something we can force.
But the one driveway that's to the west, is not getting people. They're coming in left. I guess they're making left turns into that, or are they coming from Windsor and going to the facility? What's the reality? Now how's that driveway being utilized? So
With their 2 entrances and the drop off at their front door, it would appear that vehicles most likely go counterclockwise. Both driveways are signed for 2-way. So it would appear that it's generally treated as a 1-way where you circulate counterclockwise, go to the drop off, and you would exit from the western driveway.
is there drop off? I haven't been, should have visited the site. That would have helped. But so when you come in and they go into the Porticacheri, is there can they drive around before they go through the driveway? In other words,
Yes.
So people are probably just driving around going out the same driveway unless they plan to go to 100. I would assume.
Yeah, I guess we can't say with certainty, but there is some logic to going out the same entrance you came in if you were going to go east on Imperial.
Well, people have a
as
tendency
opposed to-
they have a tendency to do that. It's
But can we say with certainty? We can't say with certainty that
Yeah.
that's the abuse, because right now, the way it's set up, you are physically capable of going left out of the westernmost driveway and using that to make a left and go east on Imperial.
So when would a determination whether that median being extended come to fruition?
We asked for it to be considered. That's the
Okay.
term we used. We'd like to see communications between the applicant and the hotel property owners. We would like to be participants in that communication or meeting that might occur and just see what their thoughts are. They do have 2 driveways. It is set up potentially that, one of their driveways could be entrance only and the other exit only. We haven't evaluated that to any extent, but
Did we ever
That's where we
pull the
stand.
land development plan for that?
No,
No, I'm looking at it on Google Earth right now. I mean, there's nothing out there. There's no one-way signs, and there's not even a stop signs on there. And that's kind of something we need to talk about anyway with them when we approach them, since Imperial Way is a township road, and they're coming out and not having a stop sign from their driveway.
So what date was that?
No, he means when it was.
the hotel,
Yeah, what the hotels, just,
I don't recall.
we have no idea.
20,
Yeah.
maybe 20
Right.
years.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So why can't you at least do a partial extension of the median? So if you assume the west driveway needs to be a left out, you know what the tracking path is going to be on the vehicles, right? So you could probably get that median extended another
30 feet, maybe.
at
Yeah.
least, which would at least partially block if traffic wanted to go out the inbound lane.
It's certainly an option and should be part of the consideration.
It's,
Do you think that's feasible from your perspective?
again, it goes across the front of somebody else's property. We need to make sure they're okay with it. It's something we can consider. That median is part of the reconstruction of the Route 100 and the 78 interchange. So if there was something that we weren't able to achieve now, there's another project coming on our heels that is going to rebuild that anyway.
I don't know if that's on your heels. That's
Yeah, that's several.
that's 8 to 10 years
I hope
away
I'm
till
fast. I'm
construction.
much faster than that.
So I guess
Yeah.
to bring it full circle, our answer would be, we're glad to consider it. You're willing to reach out, but we would hesitate to say we'd agree to a condition that says you must do it because it's not within our control entirely. It's a third party that we can't control.
Yes and no. It is a township road, so we do have a right to ask for what needs to be done within your frontage or your property.
Right.
And yeah, and I guess if the answer is you say you have to do it, and because we're the township, it's township road, I'm not sure what else we can do, but from our perspective,
Right.
we wouldn't presume to be able to tell that person, you have to do this for us,
Got it.
right?
Correct. But considered as part of the conditional use and further evaluated once they move to the next step.
And in the meantime, John can look at the exact distance you could do it without blocking the left out, like I think
Correct.
Mr. McNamara.
And the last suggested condition is traffic volumes identified in the TIS for docket 2420, Sheets, Allentown, Windsor, should be incorporated into the traffic analysis. We have comments from the township engineer, from PennDOT. We've got to go through the PennDOT approval of the TIS, and that's contained in there. So we're already obligated to meet that condition. So that's something we're agreeable to.
And then, John, I think one thing that wasn't mentioned by the engineer that you did want to talk about is the question we had on the sidewalk.
What a man.
Yes. So we have sidewalk shown on the plans from the westernmost driveway along Imperial Way up to Windsor. Sidewalk was requested along the Windsor frontage. Atlanta had requested that we build a concrete pad there. There's an existing bus stop with no pad. You either stand in the grass or on the street. They've asked us to put concrete there. We can certainly do that along Windsor. The engineer recommended that we do not put, I think Meredith and the engineer recommended that we do not put sidewalk along Route 100 and Route 78. Suggested a waiver there. Obviously, we'll submit a waiver request for that when we get to the land development phase.
So we had a discussion about that at the Planning Commission on workshop on Monday night. And the discussion mainly centered about what the VSAP action plan says that was developed when the interchange was a cloverleaf versus, the traffic, the hazards of traffic pedestrian complex of a cloverleaf versus the double diamond, the reverse diamond, sorry. And so at the workshop meeting, it was discussed that perhaps the VSAP should reevaluate pedestrian access along the Route 100 corridor. Not necessarily for today, but as the reverse diamond is considered because that's got less conflict points for pedestrians. So more than likely, it should be a deferral. when you go to land development, not.
Right, right. Certainly,
waiver.
I think it's not related to this use on the property. It's something that
Correct,
when we're back in front of you for the land development,
correct.
the sidewalk locations obviously need to be addressed at that time. As far as other things that Stan had touched on, the hotspot land use, that's something we happen to be fortunate that we have a lot of existing impervious cover on the site, so we can manage cover that is not runoff directly from the fueling station location and infiltrate that runoff to offset the additional runoff from fueling stations. So we have a plan in place. Again, that's part of the full stormwater design for the land development. We have comments from the fire chief. He had 4 comments. We have a meeting with him tomorrow. We'll comply with his recommendations. We just wanted to sit down with him and understand exactly what it was, if there were fire lanes that needed to be marked on the pavement for either the convenience store or for the office building. And obviously, we'll comply with those requirements.
John, from the pad site to the back of the property on Windsor Drive, is it mostly level, or is there a drop off?
It's level.
In the parking?
Yeah, no, where the pad site is proposed, going to the end of the property at Windsor, going east. I just wondered that it doesn't show it there.
It's I wouldn't call it flat. I wouldn't call it steep either. It drops off about 10 feet along the eastern,
that's enough.
along the
I mean,
eastern property line.
That's substantial. Yeah, that's what I was looking to see, is if it rolls through that way anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Away from Windsor.
Away from the site. Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to go back and ask a question about your queuing.
Okay.
Your queuing is current volume, correct? That you're going off like 4 cars in 90 seconds or so. And in the very near future, you're going to have multiple businesses coming into this township, and probably a lot more business. You're going to have construction workers probably building a building and other buildings coming in. Plus you have, and we all know that 78 has at least 1 cluster or 2 clusters a week. Are they prepared for that? The people coming off the highway to grab food and grab gas?
So their maximum of 4 cars isn't what the actual number that they expect. They expect 2 at a time. The store operator requires that we have space for 4 so that they're not creating any queuing problems, and that they have about 90 seconds or less for each person to pick up their order and continue. If the order is not ready when they're at the window, they direct them to a numbered parking space and they walk the order out. So it's not a line that backs up, but it's also based on more than just this location. They have multiple locations where they have this in place. So they have data from multiple locations at peak times.
Yeah, and I guess one of the large differences being that because you don't need to get in line to reach the order point and order, and you're doing it remotely,
Right.
And getting a time when you should show up and go into the line, it is controlled better than a normal drive-through at a fast food restaurant where there is an order one, or the dual they have at McDonald's now, where you primarily go to that order point to order, and then you are in the queue. You're not in the queue for the order part, which is what helps.
Right. You're just here for the pickup, but I'm just saying, because of sooner than later, we're going to have more businesses in this township, and a lot of those people are going to go for a quick bite. And at the same time, you're going to have that cluster on 78 where people are going to be coming off 78 because now they've been sitting there for over an hour. They're going to look at their app and say, "Oh, right there, I can order." That's all I'm saying. I mean, is it prepared for that kind of business? Where we don't have the traffic nightmare off of 78.
Yeah, so like Eric said, the operator will be at the hearing with the supervisors to give more detailed testimony,
Okay.
how they came up with the required stacking, and
All right.
that 4 spaces is adequate.
That, and it sounds like they need to explain how their app works.
Yeah.
More than, like, they shouldn't be requesting more than 2 people at a time. Like you said, if somebody does show up that shouldn't be there, they got to kick.
Right, and there's a bypass lane for that, and additional parking. They can direct people to the parking spaces to walk the orders out. That's how they handle it now. one of these already exists, not with the pickup window, but in the townships, and
No.
that's how they operate.
So where are your tanks your underground tanks located on this?
In between the fueling station, between the canopy and Route 100.
Okay, the rectangle there. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I trust they gave turning movements as part of their application.
Yes, they did.
Happy with them?
Yes, in general.
Thank you.
And then the last thing what we were going to offer was if you wanted to talk about any of the specific criteria for the conditional use, we'd be glad to do that. I think the zoning officer did a good job of saying what it was and what our position was. And the only one I would note is that to meet this requirement, we need to have a certain amount of sales. That percentage will provide evidence when we get to the hearing with regard to that. I think it's 51%, not exceeding 51%.
Anybody else have any questions?
So I came through there the other day, actually coming north on 100, and went to go onto Imperial. It's actually quite a juggle to try to move in with the interchange traffic. Does it meet, criteria to move over, into that?
You're talking
exit for
about like
Imperial
a
if you're coming
weaving,
northbound?
a weaving and merging type thing?
Yeah.
So we have had discussions with this project and other projects coming to this area, Fogelsville, and the studies and the calculations that are used in highway and traffic engineering are not conducive to this situation where there is a traffic signal, 800 to 1,000 feet to the north of it. Those calcs are meant for major highway on-ramps and off-ramps, right? So we have requested it. They have kind of looked at it, but there's not really a precedent for this situation. Or I should say AASHTO, which is one of the national publications we utilize, does not have calculations for this. So it's hard to assess.
And who did you request it from?
We've requested it from the next applicant that's on
Okay.
here tonight. And we've considered it as part of this
Okay.
and the other conditional use that was approved earlier this year.
And I will say that with the conditions that get there, a lot of times when you're all backed up, it's more like trying to leave a Penn State football game and trying to move around. You don't have traffic that's moving. You have traffic that's stopped and not necessarily weaving. They're just crossing and having that type of movement.
And it's not necessarily this applicant's fault, but there is a continual weaving issue on this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Correct.
Both with the traffic from the interstate trying to head westbound on Main
Mhm.
Street and traffic from Imperial Way trying to head westbound.
And you have further complicated by the traffic coming off of eastbound 78 onto northbound 100, mixing with the traffic on northbound 100 that wants to go on westbound 78.
Right.
Or
So you
eastbound
have-
Tillman.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So you have all of that there. That's the beautiful part of the diverging diamond is it'll handle all that weaving issues.
100 years away.
The other thing is you're on a major interstate with, thousands of trucks, yet this doesn't accommodate a truck to park anywhere other than they're going to end up parking on Imperial Way, which has roughly 10 to 11 foot driving lane and probably another 3-foot shoulder. So we're going to have trucks stacked up on Imperial Way.
It's a concern that we flagged in the past. And Windsor, possibly Windsor as well.
There are no spots because there's no encouragement to any trucks to come to the site. There's no high-speed diesel. The canopies wouldn't fit a truck for that. Doesn't mean someone might not say, I want
Hoagie.
food.
Well,
I understand
absolutely.
that. But I will say that they typically do not provide truck parking for that reason. There are things you could mark the shoulder. I assume there's things you can do along.
I mean, there's
do that, but
there's no diesel pumps at the Coonsville station, but I've seen trucks park in the center of the road in the turning lane and go in to get food at whatever Slice of Italy or whatever. So
Yeah, Ray, you're going to have that at any
Yeah.
food establishment.
Yeah.
It becomes an enforcement issue.
Well, we'll just get the new
Well, we had
builders
this,
to pay for more police.
we had the same thing on the conditional use in the sheets further down on 100, where we didn't want trucks coming in. However, they do, and they move around the front canopy and they park there. But by the time they're gone, they say, well, it's an enforcement issue. The problem is nobody comes out to enforce it. Number one, the people in the facility aren't calling the township, and so by the time anybody came out, they're gone anyway.
So the other thing I can also tell you, I have the turning movements up here. There's not a truck can't get to the gas pumps without major maneuvering.
Yeah, but they're not going to the other facilities either. They're going there to stop, get something to eat, and get out.
That's
You know,
right.
They're not trying to fuel. They
Right.
know that. It's a problem.
I don't know what they can do beyond what they do is the issue. And I mean, this is an area where the use is allowed. I don't know that this is particularly different than anywhere else you've had in this kind of district.
Well, we understand that. It's just, this is one of the things we get to look at is traffic and safety.
We
So-
look at it, I look at it as a safety issue, and it's continuing to be a safety issue. More businesses, more traffic, more headaches for the residents of Upper Macungie Township. You may not have to look at it that way. I look at it as a safety problem. One accident screws up traffic forever on Route 100, or Tillman Street, or 78, and all that comes on our roads. Yes, you don't have to, it's not your worry right now, but it is our worry always.
No, I'm just saying, I'm not sure what else we could do to stop it is the issue, right?
So with the narrow shoulders, like you said, it's about 2 to 3 feet along Imperial Way. Windsor's the same. We could certainly put additional no parking signs to preclude trucks from parking out on the street. If they enter the site, they can circulate the site. We have delivery trucks that we've shown that they can circulate the site. If a tractor trailer pulled in for a sandwich and they stopped in the loading space, so be it. But we do have a lot of extra pavement. So I think in this particular location, you're less likely to park on the street illegally and risk getting a ticket if there's a huge empty parking lot a couple steps away.
I guess, I mean, I don't know what it's going to be, but, for example, Wawa, which we go to everywhere, Lehigh Street, they have parking spaces for trucks in the back. There's several other ones that have, large pull-in, for trucks or trucks with, even just equipment, trailers, things like that, larger spaces for them to pull off and park too. So that's not a possibility.
No, we didn't want to encourage tractor trailers to be using the site. We think it's going to be a rare occurrence, and that it would be accommodated on site rather than having somebody park on the street. Like you said, the one on Downey Flake and Lehigh Street, that's a big deal if they park on the street. You can't park on Downey Flake. That's way too busy. Obviously, you can't park on Lehigh Street other than the car deliveries who park in the center turn lane.
John, what is
can't put tractor trailers
what
in.
is the width of each of the lanes on Imperial Way?
Looks like total
It
car
looks
weight is
like the road
37.
is about 32 feet total. So you have
32.
about 16 feet.
And
in
the
each
weight,
direction.
and do you know how wide the shoulders are?
It's about 2 to 3 feet.
So they don't really have any shoulders to pull over off into, but yet they would actually have to park in the travel lane.
Your dimension's 37.7, so 38 feet,
So
So 38 minus 4.
34.
Right. So those are wide,
Lanes.
yeah, through lanes.
But even still though, with where the shoulder is.
Well, we go back to that is right in front of where the old Kraft building is,
Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper, where they came in and they said, "Oh, we won't have stacking or truck parking," and they're parked along the road.
Well, I'll go
Daily.
further. You go to the
And
Wawa.
all they do is have signs that said no parking, but nobody enforces it. At least it's a period of time, and then they clear. But they said, "Oh, they can't get on site because they don't want them to come on the site, and there's so many of them,
And that has to do with their guardhouse and check-in process?
I guess it has to do with that, but I don't know what, but when they, this has nothing to do with them. It's just.
No,
the
it
fact
doesn't. Yeah.
Truckers are going to park where they don't want.
Yeah,
Unless you have a
and you know, we
facility.
look at the Wawa over here. You know, they have no parking signs on the road, but they park right next to the no parking signs anyway.
Well, yeah.
Along Cobance
That's
Way.
another
Yeah.
social
All
All right, let's go back on track here.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion or questions on this project?
Well, just one more comment that I wanted to make about parking. So really, Imperial Way is a township road,
Correct,
so we should consider restricting parking on that.
correct.
Correct.
It's not.
Actually, there is already a sign in front of the hotel for no parking.
Okay. Is it ordained?
We'd have to check that
Like I
out.
know we went through and about 10 years ago and made sure all these stop signs that were out there were.
Right.
I don't know. Did we ever do that with parking?
I believe the no park, they redid all the no parking stop signs.
Okay.
We went through everything. I believe that all that was captured at that point in time.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, we can consider that during land development and discuss it with the applicant for additional signage, no trucks specifically, and just no parking.
Yeah.
Period.
Right. Okay, any other discussion, comments?
Just from my own general knowledge, you mentioned ordained. Ordained is some legal standing with it, or what? What does that?
It means the township does an ordinance that restricts parking in certain
No,
blocks.
you're saying ordained stop signs. That was a blessing that the sign should be there?
So a lot of times traffic signs just show up because Public Works goes out and puts a sign in.
Okay.
Okay, but if it's not installed by an ordinance, correct me if I'm wrong, if it's not installed by an ordinance, it's not a legal sign.
Okay.
So if you get a ticket for it and it's not an ordinance,
Doesn't matter.
and you know about that, you challenge it, and it gets thrown out because it's not a legal
Gotcha.
thing.
Thank you.
All right. You guys have nothing else?
Unless there were questions.
Do we have a motion?
I guess I'll go ahead and make a motion that we recommend to the Board of Supervisors that we agree with the conditional use application for docket 2384.
With these.
Condition.
Gotcha.
You still good?
Looking to condition on comments of staff and engineers as documented in the letter, which are one, traffic volumes identified in the traffic study, extension of the median, be considered how we discussed about tonight. Evaluation proving the stacking coming into the drive-through, and the stop signs and stop bars be considered during the land development plan.
And that's the motion, sir, correct?
I hope so.
Okay. You heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Any questions, comments, or concerns from the audience? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is passed. Thank
We
you.
want to
Thank you.
capture a second motion for, and I wasn't
No,
fully
you're
paying.
right. Yeah.
There's the reduction in the parking as well. That's a part of the application.
Allow them to go with the 265 as opposed to 267, or actually, you were talking about
267 down from 374.
overall. Right, yeah, okay,
They use IT.
gotcha. Okay, so that would be a second motion, totally separate. All right. And I would look to make a motion that based off comments of staff and engineers, that this site is now, I don't want to say this site is now governed by IT traffic standards for parking
For the office
for
portion.
the office portion. We did comment on with regards to there being additional 2 parking spaces and whether or not you need to add them or take them away from the convenience store. It's up to you to decide how to go from there. That would be our recommendation is that you follow the IT standards and for the office building,
Yes.
So what's your official motion?
all of that. Does that work or not work? For docket number, basically saying I want to recommend that for this parcel, docket number 2384, that they're allowed to follow IT parking standards
Okay,
For the
That should be
office
for
building.
the office side of it, yes.
Yes.
is there a
We can
second
go
on
with
the
that.
motion?
Second.
Who's seconding it?
Him.
M.
Right.
Ray is seconding it. Any discussion on the motion? Anybody in the audience have any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is passed.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thanks for reminding us of that. We would have forgotten
Come
that.
off of 100.
All right.
Meredith.
Oh,
And go into the building parking lot.
Well, you could have told us. Okay, next on the agenda for this evening is Plan Review Docket 2409, Project Kennedy, 8810 to 9802 Main Street, Preliminary Subdivision and Land Development Plan, Phase 1, Final Development Plan.
The application proposes to consolidate 6 existing lots and to construct a pharmaceutical manufacturing facility of nearly 800 square feet on approximately 150 acres. The facility includes a series of buildings that will house a visitor center, administrative offices, manufacturing facilities, and an automated storage and retrieval system. The facility will be flanked by east and west access drives to accommodate employees, visitors, and large freight vehicles. The application includes site improvements such as associated parking, stormwater management, landscaping, and utility upgrades. We do want to note that this is on the agenda as preliminary final, phase 1 final specifically, and the staff has recommended preliminary only approval. And I'll let HRG go through the waivers. We have a few comments on the waivers as well.
Okay. And as we discussed at the workshop this evening, Stan is our primary reviewer for this land development. So I'll be having him take on the role of all the waivers and the land development stuff. I will serve as the traffic engineer type reviewer and talk about any roadway improvements or the traffic impact study or anything related to PennDOT's upcoming projects along I-78.
So Ann's he's the waiver guy and you're everything else.
Correct. Well, no, Stan's the land development guy.
I'm the land development guy.
Yeah,
He's got the
Right.
majority
He's
of
the
it.
traffic guy.
right.
Right, go ahead, Stan.
All
Well,
right.
actually, so before we just start
Sure.
this a second, so is the applicant's request for final plan approval for phase 1 still on the table?
No.
So you've withdrawn that?
Yeah, we can withdraw that on the record. I guess is probably the easiest thing to do.
That
at
would,
the
if you
outset.
could, I know it's out of
Yeah.
order, but we were a little confused because.
Yeah, so we would be seeking a recommendation of preliminary plan approval tonight. We'll withdraw the second, to the extent there was an ask for phase 1 final, we would withdraw that.
There's also a waiver request that would go along with that.
I'll get to that. So
Okay.
there's a couple of waiver requests that we'll have to have them go on record with.
Okay.
Okay. We'll
Thank
do
you
it
for
as it was
clarifying
for-
that.
All right, waivers. The first waiver is from Saldo Section 22703.3.c, parenthesis 2. This is to allow for a wider driveway than allowable by the Saldo, mostly due to the fact that they're coming out with a median for their entrances, which then creates a wider opening at the curb line. Also, with that median being in there, they need that extra width for the trucks, the fire trucks to get in. So we are in favor of that waiver. We recommend that waiver. The next waiver would be Saldo 22-402.2.d, which is regarding the going directly to the Board of Supervisors at their next meeting, as opposed to having them to come back in, clean up the plans, and go back. So we are in favor of that. We really don't have a lot of engineering questions. If you know, we normally bold our comments when we have certain concerns. There are no bolded comments in our letter that identifies anything we're particularly concerned about on an engineering front. that this can't go in front of the Board of Supervisors. The next one is a waiver of 22-703.3.d parenthesis 4, which is proposed access to the substation to be gravel and as opposed to defined by curbing. So what we're saying is that the applicant has represented that the substation is to be owned by PPL, and they are going to be utilizing that access drive maybe 4 times a year just to check on their equipment and maybe if they have to change some things, but it's not a major generator of any type of traffic or anything. So we are in favor of the curb not being put in on that access drive. The next one would be a deferral of Saldo section 22-709.3.b parenthesis 1 parenthesis d with regards to the woodland. And at this one, I think we're going to have a request on it because the existing property owner has harvested the timber in the area that would have been defined as a woodland. So therefore, there is no woodland on the property anymore. So I think that waiver should be withdrawn.
Okay, so I will now withdraw number
4. Yep.
Which I think is actually deferral, it says. So deferral.
Correct.
I'll withdraw that deferral.
The next deferral request is from Saldo 22-710.5.d for buffer yard requirements. So this is to indicate that the buffer trees for the interchange has been fully graded. So along the western edge of their property is going to be where Adams Road and the interchange is going to go. So if they put the trees in now, then what's going to happen is they're just going to get ripped out when the interchange goes in. So they are asking for a deferral to put it in after the interchange is done to put the trees up for the buffer, and we are fine with that comment. We do note that that is an approval and modification because their request letter did have a incorrect ordinance section, but we list the correct ordinance section as I just read into it. The next waiver request is for Saldo 22-503.1. This is regarding final plan requirements. This is another one you said you would be withdrawing at this time. So you're withdrawing.
I'll withdraw the waiver request. It's in label as number 6 because that pertained to seeking the final plan approval, which we've withdrawn the request for final plan recommendation.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
The next Saldo waiver is for Saldo 22-403.4.h. This is to show all of the topography within 200 feet of the boundaries. There are a few areas where they don't quite show all of the 200 feet. However, they do provide sufficient information for us to just see what is coming from upstream and downstream in both cases where that's a little bit deficient. And we can determine that there has been no problems that would be experienced either upstream or downstream from their proposed improvements. So we do recommend approval of that one. The deferral of Saldo 22-704.9.a regarding public sidewalk along the frontage of improved roads to their westerly driveway. They're asking to not put the sidewalk in, or the walking path is really what they're putting in to the west of their main driveway. Again, because the Adams Road interchange is going to come in, and also because the township wants to relook at what the VZAP says and how we want that connected into the rest of it. And do we really need it to go to the Weisenberg Township line? So, that seems to be an appropriate waiver for that one. And we recommend approval of that.
Deferral.
A deferral of it. And furthermore, that the letter says it's the easternmost portion of the site, but it's actually the westernmost portion. So just make sure that gets reworded.
So one just item of discussion on that. So I'm totally in agreement with the deferral because we don't know what PennDOT's doing and stuff, but we usually make applicants make sure that the impervious that's needed for that sidewalk is included in their NPDES permit, because then when we call in the deferral, you don't have to go back and modify your NPDES permit. How is that being handled with this application?
I'll let the engineer answer that.
We can absolutely, Mike Kissinger with Panoni. And yeah, so it's in our current MPDS boundary. So we can easily add in that as asphalt to make sure that it's in the permit and fully permittable in the future.
And we, based on our discussions at the workshop on Monday night, yesterday, I did send an email to the applicant and their engineer, just indicating to make sure it's in their LOD boundary to account for the asphalt and also to grade, 5 to 6 foot level area beyond their road widening to account for it.
Yeah. And just to clarify, so I believe we're talking from our main entrance to the interchange, not through to the property line. Is that
I would
correct?
recommend that it is accounted for to the proposed Adams Road realignment that PennDOT currently has shown.
Agreed. So it'll stop, just for full record, it'll stop short of the property line, but it will go to the interchange, which is
Correct.
showed in the hatch on the
Well,
plan.
that would be at your risk, obviously.
Of course.
It would be at your risk, correct?
Yes.
When we call in a
Interchange
deferral,
didn't
it could be
happen,
for
we
any
would
amount
look
of
it up.
length. If PennDOT has to tweak where that Adams Road is realigned, then it'll be dealt with at that time.
Understood.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying. Go ahead.
Not waiver modification request number 9 for waiver of saldo 22-703.3.g parenthesis 2 parenthesis a is that for the substation where they are showing it coming out to Main Street is within, I think you said 87 feet, Mike.
108.
It is 108 feet of the two roads would be parallel, and they're 108 feet apart from center to center. At the curve, because Glenlivet and have the arc in it, it gets to about 90 feet along the curb line. But either way, the two roads are in general 108 feet.
Yeah, and the two driveways are less than 300 feet away from each other. For the ATAS driveway to the property to the east, which has been recorded, is there. So we are in favor of it, again, because of the minimal use of the driveway. There's no reason to worry about what's going to be happening. The next modification would be a deferral of saldo 22-503.6, which is for a possibility that phase 1 were to be constructed without the remainder. That one, I believe, can just be withdrawn as well, because right now you're withdrawing the phase 1 final.
Yeah, at this time, it would be irrelevant, right, without the phasing.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
But
there may
I'll
be
withdraw- I'll
phasing, there may
withdraw it.
not be phasing, but we can consider it at final.
Yeah, you may see it again, but for now,
Right.
we'll withdraw number
10.
10 as not pertinent to tonight's discussion.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
If there are additional waiver requests, can we make it a point to keep the
Hold
numbering?
the numbering.
Yes.
So they'd
I'll
start
put
at
intentionally omitted.
We start at 11,
We'll do
so
that.
we don't.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Please.
Got it. We can do that.
Anything else?
So as I mentioned, we get down to our saldo review, our stormwater review. Although it seems like there's several comments, some of them such as the water system and having calculations to prove that they have sufficient fire flow. As you may have heard, that the LCA is looking at providing a booster pump, which will change the pressures and change the flow rates available in this area. So it's really premature for them to provide those calculations when we don't know what they're going to be getting from LCA for that. So there's some things that they're looking at. There's a lot of drafting issues, plan presentation comments that they have to do. They've proven that the stormwater management system will work, and they are in the process of getting the sanitary sewer to the point where they're ready to go. And if they were to proceed with anything at preliminary, based on the plans that they have, they would obviously be at their own risk.
One
So
other, I was going to say one other item to note is they are doing roadway widening for Main Street, Old US 22. They are widening in front of an LCA property. They have they have provided us documentation that they are currently in discussions, and LCA indicated they are not looking to cause any issues, and they'll work with the applicant.
Chris?
So LCA has submitted flow requests to, the applicant flow request to LCA at this point.
Yes,
So
they have a
So
will
it's just
serve.
on LCA, not,
So yeah,
providing.
they actually have a will serve letter from LCA that
Yeah.
LCA will serve it with the value, with the amount of water that they need. But right now, in order to get that there, meet all the requirements and the pressure issues in that area in general, they need to construct another booster pump station on the north side of 78. So that will be coming in within the next couple of months for us to look at. That's when they'll have their calculations and we'll be able to do fire
Okay.
flow.
all right.
Just to clarify, LCA is providing that booster pump. So the LCA is going to build
Right.
that booster pump, not the applicant.
No, I understand that.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
And I think last month we had maybe 3 different flow amounts referenced.
For sanitary sewer flow, yeah.
Okay, where did we land for the water use?
I can't speak to the water use. I know for the sanitary, what we're referring to is the 255,000 gallons a day.
255,000. Okay, thank you. And as long as we're talking about sewer, I know there's a couple different iterations you were looking at as treatment, pre-treatment, conveyance and stuff. Can you give us an update as to what the anticipated version you're going to settle on is?
Sure. So there would be no pre-treatment system on the site. It would connect to the public sewer on the far southeast corner of the property, on the new that line that was just placed in that area. Right outside of it, onto our property, we would have a separating monitoring well, or monitoring system. So we'd have a manhole and everything else that would separate there. We'd have a full system in there that could be tested, inspected, and report data back. And then everything after that would be up to our property, or up to the buildings, would be entirely privately owned.
Okay. And so is the quality of your waste, does that require special pretreatment down at the pretreatment plant?
I guess what I would say is that it exceeds the normal
Okay.
rates and allowable, but there's a system in place to handle that.
Okay.
So it happens off site, but either way, so we can pull into that system as well.
And so thank you for clarifying what your current proposal is. How is DEP receiving that?
Actually, pretty well so far. Yeah.
Okay. And then,
So we've moved along. They've offered different. They've offered to move as expeditiously as they can,
okay.
and move through that process.
So yes, the capacity that's freed up by Sam Adams building their wastewater treatment plant would then allow them to utilize that pre-treatment plant
Yeah.
In place of Sam Adams.
Utilize the volume in the pretreatment plant.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the construction, it was by 78, the piping, that is what has been
Connected
I
to.
talked to Ryan about that. When the site was cleared earlier, they were over by 78 doing piping. Was that related
Recently?
to the sewer?
I don't think they were
Recently, in the
installing
past
piping.
couple.
Well, they had
They were doing maybe drilling and
well, no, they
Infiltration
had an in wall or something. There was when I was driving by 78, I saw that going back several months ago.
I don't know, the applicant would have to mention or discuss that.
Yeah, I
The
just
pipe
wondered.
just showed up.
I didn't see it. I know you mentioned it to me, Mr. Walls, but I didn't see that.
Just running through a couple things in the letter here, just in general. So, how are you standing with NPDS at the moment?
We have a NPDS permit now for site restoration. We have our formal pre-app for the overall amendment this week.
And the site restoration permit is to allow you to do your bulk earthwork, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So we have that. We had a pre-construction meeting. Construction entrance went in, and so we can start at that at any point. But right now, we're still lining up E&S and contractors and so on.
And so for the NPDS for the building and improvements, I'm sorry, where did you say you were in that process?
We have our formal pre-app next week.
Okay.
And so it'll be submitted by the end of the month.
Okay,
And,
awesome.
and go through the expedited process.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Just literally going through the letter in order here. Traffic impact study. So last month we had a bunch of comments and discussion on how to manage construction traffic and so on and so forth. And Ryan, you want to give us a summary, or
Yeah.
have your comments been addressed? Or
Yeah, majority of our comments have been addressed. We have a couple minor comments that they need to account for. And, we have some comments on the signal warrant analyses where they do meet the 1 hour peak hour warrant, which typically PennDOT does not approve. They are no longer showing a proposed traffic signal at their westernmost main access driveway. As far as improvements go, all of their improvements are going to be along the frontage of Main Street, including widening, left turn lanes, right turn lanes, things of that nature. They are not proposing off-site intersection improvements, and they're showing minimal delays in the 2035 build year condition. Regarding construction traffic, we have made comments that they need to provide at least a narrative and discuss how they're going to handle that traffic and potentially do a separate traffic impact study, since we have seen reports that they're going to have a total of 2,000 laborers. We've been told that they're not all going to be on site at one time. Some are steel, some are earth moving, whatever it might be. So it is their intent that their construction managers, DPR, will be providing either a narrative or some other study. But from what we've been told, they are planning to bus in the labor from offsite somewhere else in the region. I don't know the exact sites, but we've been told it's approximately 6 buses in the morning and 6 buses in the afternoon.
At least for the first phase, for the construction,
For now,
earth moving.
And so are you willing to document that, or has that been documented in writing? I mean, obviously you can only project it because I guess the construction manager still hasn't been.
We have not received anything
Obtained
from
or
the construction
anything, but-
manager yet, but we have requested it.
And we appreciate your willingness to work with us on that. The busing in of the labor is probably going to be a great thing to help traffic.
So we will provide a construction traffic impact narrative. We are still phasing out the construction sequences now. It will be a phased approach, as Stan mentioned. I think the first wave of major labor will be about 300 employees and shift up to 600 employees, continue to shift beyond that. I will say we are looking at, DPR is looking at office space along Tillman, and that would include the offsite construction, like traffic parking that we would be busing from. The plan is to bus through Glenlivet, so we would control that route. And that will be included in the narrative, along with the busing schedule we've talked through with HRG.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Can you tell us your name for the record?
My name's Bailey Acapinti. I'm the owner's representative from Eli Lilly.
All right, thank you.
And I think last month they demonstrated that they really don't have that much in the way of truck traffic,
Correct.
right?
Yeah. I forget the exact number, but 40 to 50 or something per day. What the applicant just mentioned also triggered something that we discussed at the workshop on Monday night, that Glenlivet Drive itself, I've seen documentation going back 20, 25 years ago, some transportation planning regarding Glenlivet. And it was designed and planned to be an arterial. That's why you don't see many driveways coming off of it. You see local roads attaching to it, but in the reserve at Arabella, which used to be called Glenlivet Drive West, and the Lehigh Hills development, you don't see houses with driveways on to Glenlivet. So it is meant to move traffic. And it's been constructed, and it's the intent of the township to have that portion open in the next few months between Church Street and Main Street.
Thank you. I'm getting to the end of the list, I promise. So can you just talk about your lighting for a little bit? Hopefully this is not going to be lit up like a Taj Mahal and have a lot of glare and stuff in the
No, absolutely.
night sky.
Yeah. So we will be compliant. We understand that there are specific color and heat, I guess I should say, requirements of the township. We will fully comply with those.
Okay.
Lily would prefer more of a, pedestrian style light as well. And again, I think if you might recall from our zoning testimony, Main Street will sit about, I want to say it's about 8 feet above the building. So those light poles will be facing into the parking lot and then, kind of cascading down. So I think it would be visible probably from the 78 side, but again, that would be blocked mainly by the building. So the way the grades and everything work out with the property, I think it'll be well received. But we absolutely will comply with your lighting standards.
Satisfied, Meredith? Okay, thank you. Next question is more for township staff. So there was a comment in the fire commissioner's letter concerning traffic calming. Did you have a chance to clarify that?
Yeah, we did. So what the commissioner said was that it is more of a comment made to anticipate anything in the future that they may change that's not represented currently on the land development plan. So it wasn't something that was seen on the plan.
Okay.
It's something that he was concerned about and wanted to raise to the applicant.
Okay.
I think it might make sense for us to add a note to that on the record plan, so that way it lives on a recorded plan.
That's fine. So what generated our discussion at our workshop was this comment came up, and we don't usually see this, and we could not find on your plans where you were proposing any traffic calming.
Right.
And we just wanted to understand what was going on there. So
Understood. Yeah, and we understand from Meredith what the concern is. So that note could stand, so that way the recorded plan later, if somebody were to
do you
try to
feel you need traffic calming?
No. But if somebody later would add a speed table or a raised crosswalk, something like that,
Okay.
then, they utilities have the plan to have them remove it. So.
Okay. I think that was it.
That's it? Sure. Still got time.
I know.
Anybody else have any comments, questions, concerns?
I do.
Go ahead.
Go Pete.
The buses that what sort of guarantee is there that all the construction workers or whatever 50% are going to want to use that bus system? And my concern is being in construction for 40 plus years, a construction worker will never want to take a bus because it only delays when he needs to leave. Like, is there a mandatory? Is there something that says, is there an incentive to use it? Like, or are you looking at something that we say, hey, because all the construction workers that I know, if I can park a block away, they would rather do that. And even in going into your neighbors.
So I'm going to speak on behalf of our design contractor right now because nothing has been put in writing. But in terms of a construction narrative, I think we can do this. So I'm not aware of any incentive that's currently offered. I think that's a really creative idea. There will only be construction parking. So the idea would be you come, you park near the office space. That would be orientation, onboarding, safety. Then they would board the bus and be brought over. There's not really a walkable option near the site. Not to say that wouldn't happen, but we can explore the incentive option, but the idea is everyone boards there, at least in the first, 2 phases of construction.
Oh, and that could actually be part of your contract with your manager, and that could be part of his contract with his subs. So, I mean, I think you could enforce that.
I think we can make it a contractual.
Because that's
item.
what they do at nuclear power plants.
Yeah, correct.
You have to park off-site and you only come in through a bus.
You could also disallow access to whatever level of labor that you want, that they can't get on site with their own personal vehicle.
Right. Security is
Right.
is going to be badged. And that's an excellent point, Ryan. To get into the site, you will have to have certain security clearance, and we can limit that to bused vehicles or passengers on the bus.
I'm familiar with the security systems and all that. I've had to go through numerous batches. So that's great. Thank you.
While we're back on the subject of this, would it be appropriate to make this a condition of this approval to have this construction TIS submitted? Because it's not in your letter, is it?
Somewhere. But yes, that's fine.
Yeah, it's
I'm not opposed to that.
it's in our traffic impact statement letter, general number 1.
Correct.
Okay, so it's already in here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other comments, questions? Hearing none. You have anything else?
Anything else you need to talk about?
Not, no.
Okay,
Want to open up for comment?
that's, we have a motion.
Oh, so how are we going to do this? We're going to do the motions, the waivers first separately, or? Yes.
I would do them
Yep.
separately.
Okay. So I can do it.
All right, go ahead. You got it.
So I would recommend, and is it okay to do these with these approvals and modifications together, or do we need to break them apart?
I mean, it's really up to the board and the solicitor.
I think that we can pull them together because
Okay.
they're separated.
All right, awesome.
as-
So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a recommendation to grant waivers number 1, 2, 3, 7, and 9 as listed in HRG's May 15th, 2026 review letter.
Okay, you heard the motion to approve waivers. The waivers he mentioned. I can though, if you want. You heard the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Chris.
Just the waivers, not the deferrals.
I think he's doing the deferral separately.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was following.
Yeah, we've started to break those apart.
No problem.
just
I thought that's what you
to
were doing.
clarify
because it was
on-
the two deferrals.
Yeah, for record purposes. Okay, is there any discussion on the waivers? Motion. Anybody in the audience have any questions, comments, or concerns about that motion specifically? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's passed.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to recommend deferral of modification request number 5, 8, and that's it.
Yes.
You heard the motion for the deferrals. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Pete. Any discussion on the motion? Anybody in the audience have any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of the 2 deferrals say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's passed.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recommend preliminary subdivision and land development plan approval, conditioned upon the comments and staff and engineers review letters for docket number 2409.
You heard the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Chris. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none from our group. Anybody in the audience have any questions, comments, or concerns about this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? Motion's passed.
Sure time.
Have a good evening. Hold on. No, I brought up 9.
Okay, Dave.
Hold on a second.
Okay, go ahead.
It's 7 and 9.
Did I bring up 9?
I have
I know.
We have a request, nine.
Okay, you did, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. that's
Yeah,
okay.
I thought I did. It was just being
I
clarified.
just,
Have a good night.
Okay,
Good night.
have a good night.
Good night.
All right, moving on next to docket 2399.
That's been tabled.
Oh, it has.
Yeah,
Oh,
Should be it.
so that's it?
Yep.
Any further discussion this evening? Anybody in the audience have anything for the planning commission? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
You heard the motion. Is there
I'll
a
second
second?
Chris seconded.
Chris seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Chuck, you had a big